The one thing I realized is that there are always all these really hidden hands in a lot of these riots. So you talk about your Hockley bus riots, right? There's a hidden hand of the communist underground that was working in concert with some of the student bodies of the time. You had your 1954 National Service riots. Also, special branch documents talked about how the communist underground were basically using these for their own, their own purposes, And of course, you had people who say, "Oh no, actually, it was because of the political consciousness of the students and also the horrible working conditions of the workers at the time." And I think the two things can be true at the same time. You can have those fundamental issues, but also have them being whipped up by forces who have a hidden agenda, ulterior motive. The one fantastic hidden motive riot that I've seen, that I've researched recently, was the Chinese Post Office riots of 1876. And it came up because the British government at the time was saying, there are all these Chinese coolies, Chinese workers in Singapore who remit their money back. There's no official remittance process, so a lot of them give their money to remittance agents, and then what happens? The remittance agents disappears with all of the money, right? So they decide to try and create their own system, the British. And that pissed off the Chinese businessmen who actually had a monopoly over the remittance business. So it was the Chinese businessmen who basically whipped up the anger, got pamphlets written, paid for rioters, and then you get this riot happening again, Chinese Post Office riots. So we always see these hidden hands, So I guess my question to you would be, what can we think of? What are the things that we have been doing as a nation, as a people, to prevent these things from happening, to prevent riots from happening? You talked about it a bit earlier when you're talking about how we deal with race relations in Singapore. But anything else? In particular,
I think it's very interesting in a perspective of social psychology, and crowd dynamics. After you post-mortem all this, I believe that a lot of riots are really opportunistic. It's the right place, it's the right time. All the components are there. You need a crowd. You need something to incite. You need a catalytic event.
Right. A catalyst.
A catalyst.
Right.
You need somebody to die. Somebody get injured.
That's terrible.
I can't remember which riot it was, but a young boy got killed, and instead of giving him medical treatment, they used him as a catalyst.
Right. Yes, and paraded his body.
And paraded his body. I can't remember which riot. That's a Singapore version. In every one of these riots, there is something that whips people into a frenzy. And sometimes a lot of people don't even know why they're angry, but they're angry. So there's a triggering incident. It needs to be symbolic enough. Is there such a thing as a peaceful demonstration? I think it's very difficult, because when you have a demonstration, the large numbers of people are there. And that's why we have, and I guess that's why we have rules against gathering of people in public places.
We talked about processions previously. I remember there was one time, again, earlier in my life, I was a photographer, and I was going for one of these temple events, because they've got quite a number of different temples along the same stretch, and a lot of these are not more than, say, 100 or 200 meters away from each other, right? And what struck me was how seriously the police took it. Like, you could do your ceremonies in the temple itself, but the minute all of them stepped out to do the same thing at a different temple 100 meters down the road, you couldn't walk. You couldn't walk there.
That's
you
right.
had to have buses. You go up the bus goes down 100 meters, drops you off at the next temple. You go into the temple, and only when you're in the temple grounds, then you can perform the rites.
That's right. I think we shouldn't trivialize
that's the thing.
these things.
When you're there on the ground, you're saying, this is ridiculous, it's stupid, you can just walk over there. But that's how seriously we take it.
But it has power, you see?
It does, and it's also a sort of like, no one gets to do it. We don't care who you are, no one gets to do it. Unless, of course, there's a exception like, say, Taipusam or Timothy or Pongo.
Yeah, and even that one, it's very well policed. In the Little India riot, it was somebody who got injured Again, the very
died,
same
actually. Died.
and died. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these are the components, and if you were a skilled,
Whipper
opportunist,
upper of crowds,
yeah,
I would say.
yeah, a ripper upper of crowds, you would use this to to whip a crowd into frenzy, and there you are. We have a lot of protection against this.
No musical instruments.
No musical instruments, no gathering of people, and it's basically to prevent these components from gathering. I think it's very difficult to actually engineer a protest,
Right.
but just like a piece of social media content that goes viral, you have the components there, fresh for the explosion, and there it is.
Well, but I mean, it's not easy to create a riot, but there was a case of a protest being created and generated inorganically in Washington D.C. by state actors. I mean, I'm not going to say which state actors, but we can always kind of tell who is belligerent towards whom nowadays. But they basically whipped up a fake rally for under $20,000.
Wow.
They hired the people. They got they hired some people. They got other useful idiots to join in. And then they had a protest in Washington, D.C. So it's not impossible to fund a protest.
$20,000.
20,000.
Right. Do you get Black Friday deals with that?
A coupon off with every fifth riot that you join.